Think about the most boring problems you solved today without respecting them. You woke up in a dry room. You turned on a light. You used a toilet. You washed your hands. You drank water that came from a pipe. You opened a refrigerator. You trusted the bread, milk, eggs, fruit, or coffee in front of you. You threw something away. You locked a door. You checked the weather without looking at the sky for very long. You crossed a street where rules, paint, signals, curbs, and machines all quietly agreed to reduce the chance of disaster. None of this felt heroic. It probably felt like nothing. That is what modern comfort does best. It turns old problems into nothing. Not into miracles. Not into luxuries. Not into stories worth telling at dinner. Just into background. But before modern comfort, the boring problems of the day were not background. They were the day. Water was not a tap. Heat was not a setting. Light was not a switch. Food safety was not a label. Clean bedding was not a cycle in a machine. Waste was not a flush. Security was not a lock combined with an emergency number. Laundry was not a basket waiting for Saturday. Weather was not a forecast. Time was not a phone screen. The medieval world, like every old world, was built around ordinary problems that had to be solved again and again. Not once. Not neatly. Not permanently. Every morning. Every evening. Every season. Every illness. Every market day. Every winter. Every time the rain found the roof, the fire died, the bread was short, the well was far, the baby cried, the floor was dirty, or the night sounded wrong. So tonight, let's look at the boring medieval problems people solved every day. Not kings. Not battles. Not castles as symbols. Just practical life. Water. Fire. Bread. Smoke. Mud. Waste. Cloth. Darkness. Noise. Cold. Rot. Trust. The basic work of keeping a human body alive in a world that did not provide comfort automatically. The first boring problem was getting water. Modern water is so obedient that it has become almost invisible. It waits behind the wall. It enters the sink. It fills the kettle. It rinses the cup. It washes the hand. It disappears down the drain. You may complain if it takes a few seconds to heat. You may complain if the pressure is weak. You may complain if a pipe is repaired and the building sends a notice. These complaints are real. But they belong to a world where water is expected to come indoors. Before modern comfort, water lived elsewhere. In wells. In springs. In streams. In rivers. In cisterns. In barrels. In buckets. In places that required a path. A household did not merely need water once. It needed water all day. For drinking. For cooking. For brewing. For washing hands and faces. For animals. For cleaning vessels. For soaking, rinsing, dyeing, baking, gardening, healing, cooling, and 100 small tasks that do not wait because a person is tired. The problem was not only distance. It was weight. Water is heavy in a way modern plumbing allows us to forget. A bucket full of water teaches the shoulder. 2 buckets teach the back. A long path teaches the feet. A stair teaches the breath. And a household that needs water every day teaches everyone who is expected to carry it exactly where they stand in the household. In many places, women, servants, children, apprentices, laborers, or hired carriers might be connected to the work of water. The pattern varied by region, status, urban layout, rural landscape, and available infrastructure. But the principle was simple. If water did not come to the house, someone went to the water. Imagine the start of a medieval morning. The light is thin. The fire is not fully awake. The vessels from yesterday need attention. Someone reaches for a pail. The handle is familiar in the hand because the task has been done so many times that the object has become part of the body. The path may be muddy. The well may have a queue. The water may be cold enough to make the fingers ache. And when the bucket returns, the problem is not finished. The water must be stored. It must be used carefully. It must be protected from dirt. It must be stretched through the needs of the day. Modern comfort did not make water less necessary. It made the journey disappear. That is why the tap is one of the most powerful objects in your home. It is a medieval water carrier hidden in a wall. The second boring problem was keeping water trustworthy. Water is not automatically safe just because it is clear. Modern people know this intellectually, but many of us do not feel it every day. We trust treatment systems, pipes, testing, regulations, filters, bottled water, municipal notices, and the long chain of invisible labor that stands between a glass and sickness. Before modern comfort, trust was more local and more uncertain. People learned sources. This well is better. That stream is fouled after rain. This pond is for animals. That spring runs clear. Water from here tastes wrong. Water from there keeps longer. In towns, water could be affected by waste, animals, industry, crowding, runoff, and simple overuse. In villages, the risk might be different but not absent. People did not need modern germ theory to notice that some water caused trouble, smelled bad, changed color, or became associated with illness. They also used other drinks. Ale, beer, wine, cider, small beer, broth, and other prepared liquids could be part of daily hydration depending on place, period, age, and status. But it is too simple to say that medieval people never drank water. They did. The real point is that water was part of judgment. The household had to know. The body had to learn. The community had to remember. Imagine a person choosing between a nearby dirty source and a farther cleaner one. The modern answer is obvious. Take the clean one. The old answer depends on time, strength, urgency, weather, class, safety, and who is doing the carrying. Comfort is not only having the right option. Comfort is having the energy to choose it. Before modern comfort, even water required decisions that a tap now makes for you. The third boring problem was making fire. A modern home has many invisible fires. The stove. The furnace. The water heater. The power plant somewhere far away. The engine in a delivery vehicle. The controlled heat inside industrial ovens and factories that made your objects before you ever touched them. But your room is not usually filled with the evidence. No ash on the floor. No smoke in the rafters. No sparks near bedding. No constant concern that warmth may become danger. Before modern comfort, fire was not a utility. It was a living problem. It had to be started, fed, watched, banked, revived, and respected. Fuel had to be gathered, bought, cut, dried, stored, and rationed. Wood, charcoal, peat, brush, straw, dung, coal in some regions and later contexts, and other fuels all carried local economies and local difficulties. The fire solved problems. It cooked food. It heated the room. It dried damp clothing. It provided light. It heated water. It helped preserve, process, smoke, bake, brew, and make. It gathered the household. But it created problems too. Smoke. Ash. Burns. Sparks. Fuel hunger. Indoor air. Chimney fires in later houses. The risk of losing not only a meal but a building. In many earlier medieval domestic buildings, open hearths were common, with smoke finding its way upward and out through openings or gaps before chimneys became widespread in ordinary housing in some regions. This means warmth and smoke could belong to the same bargain. Imagine tending a fire at the start of the day. The ashes are not cold enough to ignore. There may be embers worth saving. Someone kneels close. The hands move carefully because ash hides heat. Fuel is added slowly. Air is encouraged. Smoke hesitates, then decides where it wants to go. The household waits for the fire because breakfast, warmth, and work depend on it. Modern comfort gives us instant heat and calls it normal. Before modern comfort, heat had to be persuaded. The fourth boring problem was smoke. Smoke is easy to romanticize from a distance. It makes old rooms look atmospheric. It curls beautifully in paintings. It gives candlelit scenes a soft historical mood. But smoke in a room is not decoration. It is a problem touching the eyes, throat, lungs, hair, clothing, roof timbers, bedding, food, and patience. In houses without efficient chimneys, smoke could gather before escaping. Even with fireplaces and flues, per draft, damp fuel, bad weather, blocked passages, or badly maintained chimneys could make smoke part of daily life. The old household had to manage smoke with architecture and habit. Where is the hearth? Where does the air move? Is the fuel dry? Is the opening clear? Where should food hang? Where should bedding stay? Where should a person sit if the smoke turns? Smoke shaped interiors. It blackened surfaces. It scented textiles. It discouraged some arrangements and encouraged others. It made the ceiling and roof part of the story of daily comfort. The modern kitchen hood, chimney liner, gas safety check, smoke alarm, carbon monoxide detector, and electric stove all descend from the same old problem. How do we keep heat useful without letting its byproducts harm us? Imagine a child in a smoky room. The eyes water. Adults barely react because they have known this air all their lives. A guest from a different house might cough. The smoke shifts with the door. The fire that makes the stew possible also makes the room sting. Before modern comfort, many solutions arrived with a shadow. Fire solved cold and hunger. Smoke created a new daily negotiation. The fifth boring problem was bread. Bread sounds simple. It is so ordinary that modern people use it as a symbol of basic life. Daily bread. Breadwinner. Bread and butter. Breaking bread. But ordinary things are often the most complicated. Before modern supermarkets, bread sat at the center of a chain of weather, land, labor, milling, fuel, skill, regulation, trust, and local price. Grain had to be grown, harvested, stored, protected from damp, pests, theft, and spoilage, carried, ground, mixed, fermented or otherwise prepared depending on type, baked, sold, shared, eaten before it failed. If grain prices rose, everyone felt it. If the miller cheated, people felt it. If the baker made the loaf too light, people felt it. If fuel was scarce, baking changed. If weather damaged crops, bread became anxiety. This is why bread was often regulated. In medieval England, for example, the assize of bread and ale tied basic food and drink to rules about price, weight, and quality in ways that show how public the problem was. Bread was not merely a private purchase. It was public order you could chew. Imagine buying a loaf in a medieval town. You are not thinking about branding. You are thinking about hunger, price, weight, and whether the loaf will carry the household through the meal. The baker's oven is not just a business. It is a piece of local survival. A light loaf is not a small annoyance. It is a theft from the stomach. Modern bread has its own problems, of course. Industrial bread can be dull. Good bread can be expensive. Health advice changes. But the modern shopper has choices on a shelf. The medieval buyer had a more fragile relationship with grain, law, and trust. Before modern comfort, bread was never just bread. It was a daily referendum on whether the local system still worked. The sixth boring problem was milling. A loaf begins before the oven. Grain must become flour. This step is so hidden from modern life that many people touch flour more often than they think about mills. The bag arrives clean, printed, measured, and ready. Before modern comfort, grinding grain was one of the great repetitive labors behind food. Hand mills, querns, watermills, windmills, animal power, and larger milling systems all existed in different places and periods. Where a mill was available, it could save enormous labor. It could also create dependence. The miller controlled a crucial transformation. Grain went in. Flour came out. Between those two moments, trust was required. Was the toll fair? Was the flour returned properly? Was someone taking more than allowed? Was the mill working? Was the water level right? Was the wind sufficient? Was the road to the mill passable? The medieval mill was comfort and suspicion at once. It saved hands from endless grinding, but it placed food inside someone else's mechanism. Imagine waiting near a mill. The sound of grinding is heavy and steady. Water turns a wheel, or wind moves sails, or an animal pulls in a circle. Dust hangs in the air. The grain is not abstract. It represents future meals. You watch because every measure matters. Modern comfort has hidden milling behind industry. But the old question survives in every food system. Who controls the step between raw material and meal? The seventh boring problem was keeping food from spoiling. Modern refrigeration has changed the emotional life of food. It allows leftovers. It allows shopping ahead. It allows dairy to sit safely for longer. It lets meat wait. It makes abundance look tidy. It gives the household a cold room inside a cabinet. Before modern comfort, time was always eating the food. Meat, fish, milk, butter, cheese, vegetables, fruit, cooked dishes, and grain all had different vulnerabilities. People answered spoilage with drying, salting, smoking, pickling, fermenting, brewing, cheese making, careful storage, seasonal eating, cool cellars, clay vessels, hanging, covering, and simply using things quickly. These methods were intelligent. They created many foods we still enjoy. But they were not effortless. Preservation took labor, knowledge, salt, vessels, space, timing, and attention. It also changed flavor. Modern people can buy smoked fish as a choice. An older household might smoke fish because the alternative was loss. Fermentation can be culinary pleasure. It can also be a way to keep cabbage, milk, grain, or drink from becoming useless too soon. Imagine a household after slaughtering an animal. This is not simply a feast. It is a race. What can be eaten fresh? What must be salted? What can be smoked? Who has enough salt? Where will it hang? What part must be shared, sold, owed, or rendered? The animal's body becomes a schedule. Before modern comfort, food preservation was time management with hunger attached. The eighth boring problem was cooking without a modern kitchen. A modern kitchen is a room designed to make cooking seem manageable. Counters, sink, stove, oven, refrigerator, cabinets, drawers, trash, light, ventilation, measurements, timers, utensils made for specialized tasks. Before modern comfort, cooking often happened with fewer boundaries between heat, smoke, labor, storage, animals, people, and dirt. The hearth was a workplace. The pot was important technology. A cauldron, griddle, spit, baking stone, oven, kettle, mortar, knife, board, and ladle could matter as much as any appliance matters now. Cooking required control of fire by eye, hand, smell, habit, and memory. No digital temperature. No oven light. No timer that politely beeps. No exhaust fan. No stainless sink waiting for cleanup. The cook had to know the fire. Where is the heat strongest? When are embers better than flame? How much fuel can be spent? Will the pot crack? Will the stew catch? Will smoke ruin the room? Will the bread bake through? Will the meat be safe enough? In larger households, cooking could become a whole organized labor world with kitchens, servants, scullions, bakers, brewers, butchers, pantlers, and officers. In poorer homes, cooking might be closer, smaller, smokier, and more immediate. Imagine stirring a pot over a hearth. The face warms first. The back remains cold. The smoke changes direction. The child wants food. The fuel is not endless. The pot must feed more people than it looks able to feed. Modern comfort makes cooking a hobby when we want it, and a chore when we must. Before modern comfort, cooking was a daily defense against hunger, spoilage, cold, and waste all at once. The ninth boring problem was washing the body. A modern shower is one of the most underrated luxuries in human history. Hot water falls from above. Dirty water leaves below. Soap waits nearby. Steam is vented. Towels dry. The room is private. The whole event can take 7 minutes. Before modern comfort, washing the body required water, heat, vessels, cloth, time, privacy, and sometimes access to a bathhouse or other shared facility. People in the medieval world did wash, though not always in the way modern people expect. Bathing habits varied by region, class, climate, religion, medical belief, season, and available infrastructure. It is wrong to imagine everyone as permanently filthy. It is also wrong to imagine hygiene as easy. Hands, faces, feet, hair, teeth, linen, and visible cleanliness all mattered in different ways. But a full hot private wash was not ordinary for most people in the modern sense. Heating enough water took work. Carrying enough water took work. Finding privacy took space. Drying the body in a cold room took courage. Bathhouses existed in many towns at different times, and they could provide warmth, washing, sociability, and sometimes suspicion, depending on context. But the basic problem remained. The body gets dirty every day. The solution is never free. Imagine washing at a basin. The water is not endless. The cloth is rougher than a modern towel. The room may be cold. The body is cleaned in parts because full immersion is inconvenient. Hands first. Face. Neck. Feet if needed. Linen changed if possible. Modern comfort makes cleanliness feel like personality. Before modern comfort, cleanliness was labor translated into skin. The 10th boring problem was laundry. Laundry is still annoying. But modern laundry is annoying inside a miracle. Water enters a machine. Soap is measured. The drum turns. Dirty water leaves. Another machine dries. Cloth returns wearable with little more than sorting, loading, folding, and complaint. Before modern comfort, laundry was heavy work. Water had to be carried or reached. Cloth had to be soaked, scrubbed, beaten, boiled when possible, rinsed, wrung, blued or treated in later contexts, dried, aired, folded, mended, and stored. Large textiles became enormous when wet. Cold water hurt hands. Soap or lye had to be made or obtained. Drying depended on weather. Clean linen could signal care, decency, wealth, and order. Dirty clothing was not only smell. It affected insects, skin, status, sickness, and comfort. This is why shifts, shirts, and linen worn near the body mattered so much. They protected outer garments and bedding from the body. They were easier to wash than heavy wool. They allowed people to appear cleaner even when full bathing was difficult. Imagine wash day. The work begins before the cloth is wet. Sorting. Fetching. Heating. Carrying. Scrubbing. The hands redden. The back bends. Steam rises. Wet fabric resists being lifted. A sheet is not a soft symbol here. It is weight. Modern comfort made laundry private, mechanized, and frequent. Before modern comfort, laundry could be a major event in the rhythm of the household. The 11th boring problem was waste. Modern waste disappears in stages. You flush. You tie a bag. You take out trash. You rinse a sink. You pour something down a drain. You may think about waste collection only when it fails. Before modern comfort, waste stayed closer. Human waste. Animal dung. Kitchen scraps. Ash. Broken pottery. Rotten straw. Bones. Dirty water. Blood from butchery. Tanning waste. Dye waste. Market refuse. Street mud mixed with things no one wanted to identify too closely. Cities and towns had rules, habits, ditches, cesspits, gutters, privies, carts, workers, fines, and arguments. None of it created modern sanitation. But it did create constant negotiation. Waste is social because no one wants to keep it, and everyone wants someone else to bear the cost. If you empty a chamber pot into the wrong place, your neighbor knows. If a cesspit overflows, the household next door may suffer. If a butcher throws refuse carelessly, the street suffers. If animals foul a passage, feet carry the problem. Waste creates lawsuits, complaints, smells, labor, and rules because waste refuses to remain private. Imagine a narrow street after rain. The wet surface is not clean. It is mobile. Water moves ash, mud, straw, dung, scraps, and whatever else the street has collected. The person walking must choose steps carefully. Shoes matter. Raised thresholds matter. Street cleaning matters. Modern comfort buried waste in pipes and truck routes. Before modern comfort, waste was a daily neighbor. The 12th boring problem was mud. Mud is not dramatic until it owns your shoes. Modern pavement has changed our relationship with weather. Rain may inconvenience us, but it usually does not turn every journey into a negotiation with the ground. Before modern comfort, many paths, yards, lanes, fields, and streets changed personality with the weather. Rain made mud. Mud slowed wheels. Mud swallowed hems. Mud dirted shoes, floors, bedding, and food spaces. Mud made animals harder to move. Mud made markets more unpleasant. Mud made carrying water or fuel more difficult. Mud made injury more likely. The medieval person did not simply walk through scenery. They walked through surfaces. Stone, packed earth, timber, straw, rushes, boards, bridges, stepping places, yard paths, field tracks, and town paving all mattered. A paved street was not only beauty. It was resistance to mud. A pair of pattens or overshoes could lift the foot above filth. Straw on a floor or path could absorb and cover for a time, though it also created its own cleaning problem. Imagine coming home with wet shoes. There is no tidy modern entryway designed around washable mats and sealed floors. The dirt enters with you unless the household has rules. Where do shoes go? Where are tools set? Who cleans? Can clothing dry? Does the floor become slippery? Does the bedding stay safe? Mud is weather made domestic. Modern comfort keeps mud outside with pavement, drainage, boots, doormats, washing machines, and floors that can be wiped. Before modern comfort, mud followed people more faithfully. The 13th boring problem was keeping the floor decent. A floor is easy to ignore when it is sealed, flat, and clean. Older floors demanded more attention. Packed earth could be hard but dusty or damp. Stone could be cold. Wood could rot, warp, splinter, and trap dirt in gaps. Rushes, straw, mats, and coverings could make a room more comfortable but needed changing. The floor carried the house's memory. Feet. Ash. Food. Spilled drink. Animal traces. Children. Work. Mud. Soot. Cleaning was not a quick pass with a vacuum. It was sweeping, scraping, replacing, airing, washing when possible, carrying dirt away, and managing what could not be made truly clean. In a shared room, the floor mattered to everything. People ate near it, worked near it, slept near it, stored things near it, dropped things on it. The modern separation of rooms makes dirt more specialized. Kitchen dirt belongs in the kitchen. Bathroom dirt belongs in the bathroom. Bedroom dirt is supposed to be light. Before modern comfort, one surface could carry many kinds of dirt. Imagine sweeping in morning light. Dust rises in a beam. The broom moves yesterday into a pile. Small scraps appear. A lost pin, a crumb, a straw, a bit of ash, a flake of mud. The work is repetitive because the house is constantly being re-entered by the outside world. Modern comfort has not removed floors from life. It has made them easier to forgive. The 14th boring problem was keeping clothes functional. Modern clothing is abundant in a way that would astonish many earlier households. A drawer full of shirts, socks in multiples, cheap underclothes, shoes for different uses, coats, rain jackets, sweaters, sleepwear, sportswear, workwear, and clothing kept for no clear reason except that the closet has space. Before modern comfort, clothing represented material, labor, skill, and money. Fiber had to be grown or gathered, wool shorn, flax processed, thread spun, cloth woven, fabric fulled, dyed, cut, sewn, mended, altered, handed down, patched, and protected. A garment was not simply style. It was weather protection, modesty, status, occupational identity, and stored value. This made maintenance crucial. Mending was not a hobby for people avoiding waste. It was ordinary survival. A tear mattered. A worn sole mattered. A lost button, clasp, lace, pin, or belt mattered. Clothing failed slowly and demanded attention. Imagine a sleeve being patched by low light. The cloth is not fresh. The patch does not match perfectly. It does not need to. It needs to hold. The needle moves because replacing the garment is not easy. Modern comfort allows us to confuse newness with normality. Before modern comfort, usefulness was often more important than freshness. The 15th boring problem was shoes. Shoes may be the most underappreciated boundary between the body and the world. Modern shoes are engineered, sized, cushioned, mass-produced, and specialized. Running shoes, work boots, dress shoes, waterproof boots, sandals, slippers, shoes for kitchens, hospitals, factories, hiking, weddings, and standing all day. Before modern comfort, footwear was valuable and often repaired repeatedly. Leather had to be obtained, tanned, cut, sewn, shaped, and maintained. Soles wore down. Water entered. Mud clung. Cold reached toes. A bad shoe changed the whole day. Walking was more central to life for many people. Carrying, market trips, field work, errands, pilgrimage, military movement, herding, fetching water, gathering fuel, and visiting all depended on feet. The medieval foot felt infrastructure directly. Bad roads punished shoes. Wet weather punished seams. Cold punished thin soles. Work punished everything. Imagine a person with one decent pair of shoes. They are not a fashion choice. They are protection from distance. When they crack, the day becomes more dangerous. When they soak through, the body becomes colder. When they are stolen, comfort drops sharply. Modern comfort begins at the foot more often than we admit. Before modern comfort, a shoe was a small roof for the body. The 16th boring problem was getting enough light to work. Modern light has made the evening flexible. You can cook after sunset, read after sunset, repair something after sunset, work after sunset, waste time after sunset. Before cheap and safe lighting, light had to be budgeted. Daylight was precious because artificial light costs fuel, materials, labor, and risk. Rushlights, candles, oil lamps, torches, hearth glow, and moonlight each had limits. Better candles cost more. Cheap lights could smell, smoke, gutter, or burn briefly. Open flame near cloth, straw, wood, and bedding required care. This changed labor. Some work needed daylight. Some work could be done by firelight. Some work moved close to a window. Some work ended when eyes could no longer bear the strain. The modern desk lamp is not just convenience. It is an extension of usable day. Imagine mending cloth by weak light. The thread is hard to see. The flame moves. Shadows deepen the fold. The eyes tire before the hands do. A dropped needle may not be found until morning. Modern comfort makes darkness decorative. Before modern comfort, darkness had economic power. It ended tasks. It hid dangers. It raised the cost of attention. The 17th boring problem was time. Modern time is everywhere. Phones, clocks, calendars, alarms, schedules, notifications, deadlines, receipts, transport boards. Before modern comfort, time was still organized, but not by a glowing personal device in every pocket. People used sunlight, bells, prayers, meal rhythms, market days, seasons, work routines, and mechanical clocks were available in later medieval towns and institutions. Time belonged more openly to communities. The church bell did not ask whether your personal schedule preferred it. The market day came because the community recognized it. The season decided tasks with a force no calendar app can imitate. Harvest, lambing, brewing, washing, repairing, traveling, building, and preserving all followed natural and social timing. The boring problem was coordination. When do we meet? When does work begin? When is bread ready? When should animals be moved? When is rent due? When does the court sit? When can we travel before dark? Modern comfort gives each person private timekeeping. Before modern comfort, time was often heard, seen, and negotiated. Imagine waiting for a bell. You do not check your wrist. You listen. The sound crosses roofs and yards. It tells many bodies to change behavior at once. That is comfort and control in the same note. The 18th boring problem was weather. Modern people still suffer weather, but we often know it before it arrives. Forecasts, radar, storm warnings, temperature apps, waterproof clothing, insulated houses, air conditioning, heating. Weather becomes something we plan around with information. Before modern comfort, weather was read more directly. Clouds, wind, animal behavior, seasonal memory, the feel of air, the color of sky, the smell before rain, the old ache in a joint. This knowledge could be impressive, but it did not give modern certainty. Weather changed work. Rain changed roads. Frost changed water. Heat changed food. Wind changed fire. Storms changed roofs. Drought changed everything. The medieval household did not simply check weather. It lived under weather as an authority. Imagine deciding whether to travel. The road may become mud. The river may rise. The daylight may not last. The cloak may not dry. The animal may struggle. A modern person might say the forecast gives a 70% chance. An older traveler reads the sky and the memory of the road. Before modern comfort, weather was not content. It was command. The 19th boring problem was keeping animals alive. Modern urban comfort hides animals from daily life unless we choose pets. But in medieval rural and urban life, animals were everywhere in different ways. Horses, oxen, cows, sheep, goats, pigs, chickens, geese, dogs, cats, donkeys, mules, and other animals shaped labor, food, transport, wealth, waste, sound, smell, and risk. Animals were not cute background. They were living infrastructure. An ox could pull. A horse could carry. A cow could give milk. A sheep could give wool. A pig could turn scraps into meat. Chickens could give eggs. A dog could guard. A cat could hunt pests. Keeping animals alive meant feeding, watering, sheltering, breeding, guarding, treating injuries, cleaning, moving, and watching. An animal's illness could be financial disaster. An animal's escape could become a neighbor dispute. An animal's hunger could reshape a household's day. Imagine waking because an animal sounds wrong. The sound is not just noise. It is a question about wealth, food, and work. Someone rises because the animal matters. Modern comfort replaced many animal functions with machines, supply chains, and industrial farming. Before modern comfort, animals were machines that breathed, suffered, smelled, and needed care. The 20th boring problem was pests. Every stored thing attracts attention from life. Grain attracts mice. Cloth attracts moths. Bedding attracts fleas and bugs. Food attracts flies. Wood attracts insects. Animals attract more insects. Modern pest control has made many of these problems less constant for many households, though not gone. Before modern comfort, pests were daily competitors. They ate stored food, damaged textiles, spread filth, kept people awake, contaminated surfaces, made storage a battle. The household used cats, traps, hanging storage, sealed vessels when available, cleaning, smoke, herbs, airing, beating textiles, moving grain, and plain watchfulness. None of these were perfect. Pests are skilled at living from human comfort. They follow warmth, food, cloth, straw, and neglect. Imagine a sack of grain in storage. It is not simply food waiting. It is a target. The household must keep it dry, guarded, covered, and checked. Every loss is a small theft by the world. Modern packaging, refrigeration, sealed containers, pesticides, sanitation, and supply chains have pushed this problem away from daily attention for many people. Before modern comfort, storage was not passive. It was defense. The 21st boring problem was trust in the market. Modern markets are full of invisible enforcement. Weights and measures. Licenses. Inspections. Labels. Receipts. Consumer law. Reputation systems. Reviews. Branding. Standard sizes. Barcode databases. Refund policies. Before modern comfort, the market still needed trust, but trust stood closer to faces, measures, local reputation, public officials, and community memory. Was the loaf the right weight? Was the ale fit? Was the cloth sound? Was the fish fresh? Was the coin good? Was the measure honest? Medieval towns often regulated basic goods because daily life depended on fairness in ordinary transactions. The assize of bread and ale is one example of a broader truth. Food and drink were too important to leave entirely to charm. Imagine a buyer at a stall. The seller knows the goods better. The buyer needs the goods more. The crowd presses. The day moves. A shared measure reduces the argument. It does not eliminate cheating. It gives cheating a shape. Modern comfort has multiplied the shape into labels, laws, and systems. Before modern comfort, trust was something the market had to perform in public. The 22nd boring problem was protecting food from theft. Food is wealth when food is not guaranteed. A locked refrigerator is rare now because most modern households do not expect a neighbor to steal soup. But older households often stored food, grain, ale, salted meat, cheese, eggs, and tools of food production in ways that required attention. Theft did not have to be dramatic. A little grain missing. A loaf taken. A chicken gone. A measure shorted. Apples from an orchard. Fuel from a stack. In a world with narrower margins, small losses mattered. Locks, chests, cellars, lofts, watchfulness, dogs, household hierarchy, community reputation, and legal penalties all help protect stored goods. Imagine a household before winter. The stored food is not a pantry aesthetic. It is a calendar of survival. Each item carries future hunger inside it. A theft is not only property loss. It is stolen time, stolen labor, stolen warmth, stolen meals. Modern comfort hides this by making replacement more available. Before modern comfort, storage carried anxiety. The 23rd boring problem was repair. Modern life often replaces before it repairs. A cracked plastic object. A torn cheap shirt. A dull tool. A broken chair from a flat box. Many things are cheaper to replace than to mend. Before modern comfort, repair was central. Clothing was patched. Shoes were resoled. Tools were sharpened. Pots were mended when possible. Wooden objects were pegged, bound, shaved, tightened, adjusted. Roofs were patched. Fences were repaired. Harness was fixed. Baskets were rewoven. Knives were honed. The boring problem was that objects wore out faster than people could afford to replace them. Repair required skill, time, materials, and the humility to live with visible mending. Modern aesthetics often hide repair. The old world often displayed it. A patch says the garment has a history. A riveted pot says the vessel was worth saving. A resoled shoe says distance has already been walked. Imagine a stool with a loose leg. In a modern house, it may be thrown away. In an older house, the question is who can fix it and how soon. Before modern comfort, repair was not nostalgia. It was economics. The 24th boring problem was keeping tools sharp. A dull tool turns work into punishment. Modern people encounter this mostly with kitchen knives, scissors, razors, drills, or garden tools. Before modern comfort, sharpness mattered across daily life. Knives, sickles, scythes, axes, chisels, awls, shears, razors, needles, and many craft tools depended on edges and points. A bad edge wasted strength. It slowed work. It increased risk. It made poor results. Sharpening was maintenance of the body through maintenance of the tool. If the blade does not cut, the arm pays. If the needle is bad, the cloth suffers. If the axe is dull, the wood resists longer. Imagine sharpening before work. The sound is small. Stone against metal. Repetition. Attention. No drama. But the whole day may depend on this quiet preparation. Modern comfort often gives us tools already sharp, disposable blades, replaceable parts, electric motors, and service shops. Before modern comfort, a tool's condition was part of a person's condition. The 25th boring problem was communication. Modern messages are instant enough to become burdensome. Before modern comfort, a message had a body, a voice, a messenger. A letter carried by hand, horse, ship, cart, or traveler. A bell. A town crier. A notice. A rumor. A church announcement. The boring problem was getting information to the right people before it became useless. Who died? Who owes money? When is the market? Where is the Lord's officer? Is a road dangerous? Has a tax been announced? Is work needed? Is a ship arrived? Is there sickness nearby? Modern comfort lets us separate message from distance. Older communication could not. Distance slowed news. Weather delayed it. Literacy limited it. Trust complicated it. Imagine waiting for word from someone who traveled. There is no tracking. No typing indicator. No missed call. Only absence. The mind fills the silence. Before modern comfort, not knowing was one of the most ordinary problems in the world. The 26th boring problem was privacy. Modern privacy is not perfect, but it is expected. A door. A bathroom. A bedroom. Headphones. Personal devices. Passwords. Individual beds. Personal documents. Before modern comfort, privacy was distributed by status, architecture, and circumstance. Many people lived, worked, slept, washed, ate, and argued in shared spaces. Servants knew masters intimately. Apprentices lived inside another household. Children heard adult worries. Travelers shared rooms. Neighbors heard through walls or across yards. The boring problem was finding a moment where the self could be alone. This does not mean people in the past had no inner lives. Of course they did. It means the material world gave fewer private containers to many of them. Imagine trying to cry, pray, change clothing, count money, speak honestly, or sleep while other bodies remain near. Modern comfort has made solitude into a room. Before modern comfort, solitude was often a timing strategy. The 27th boring problem was childcare. Children turn every comfort into a question. Water, food, warmth, cleanliness, sleep, safety, clothing, illness, and work all become harder when a child is small. Modern parents still know this. But they often have diapers, wipes, bottles, formula when needed, pediatric care, vaccinations, thermometers, washing machines, cribs, strollers, car seats, schools, playgrounds, and advice everywhere. Before modern comfort, children were cared for with fewer tools and higher risks. Swaddling, nursing, wet nurses in some contexts, older siblings, servants, neighbors, cradles, slings, songs, prayers, charms, household discipline, and practical watching all belonged to child care. The boring problem was that life did not pause because children needed care. Water still had to be carried. Food still had to be cooked. Animals still had to be fed. Fields still demanded labor. Workshops still needed hands. A crying baby did not cancel winter. Imagine a mother, older sister, nurse, or servant trying to keep a child warm while other tasks press in. The child is not a sentimental image. The child is a body that must be kept alive through repeated acts. Modern comfort has not made childcare easy, but it has multiplied the tools. Before modern comfort, care depended more heavily on bodies, households, and endurance. The 28th boring problem was sickness before quick help. Modern illness can still be frightening, but help is more reachable for many people. A pharmacy, a doctor, an ambulance, a thermometer, pain relief, antibiotics when appropriate, clean water, information. Before modern comfort, sickness often began as a household problem. What is wrong? Is it serious? Who knows what to do? Can the person work? Can we afford help? Can we move them? Will it spread? Who sits awake? Medical ideas varied widely and were shaped by learned medicine, local healers, religious practices, household remedies, and experience. Some treatments helped. Some did little. Some harmed. But the immediate burden of illness often fell on people nearby. The sickbed was not only a medical place. It was domestic labor. Water, cloth, warmth, chamber pots, food, prayer, watching, cleaning, and fear. Imagine a fever at night. The room is dark. The sleeper mutters. Someone touches the forehead by hand because there is no digital number. The question is not only what disease is this. The question is what can we do before morning? Modern comfort gives sickness more institutions. Before modern comfort, sickness sat closer to the hearth. The 29th boring problem was old age. Modern societies still struggle with aging, but they have pensions, hospitals, care homes, mobility aids, glasses, hearing aids, medications, social services, and a language of retirement. Before modern comfort, old age was shaped more directly by family, household position, property, community, charity, religious institutions, and the body's ability to keep contributing. An older person could be respected, dependent, powerful, burdensome, loved, neglected, skilled, or vulnerable depending on circumstance. The boring daily problems became sharper. Can they climb? Can they chew? Can they stay warm? Can they see the thread? Can they hear the bell? Can they work enough to justify their place in a harsh household economy? Can someone help them wash? Can someone help them to the privy? Modern comfort creates devices for decline. Handrails, glasses, dentures, walkers, heating, soft food, lighting, medication organizers. Before modern comfort, the old body often depended on people and arrangement. Imagine an elderly person near the fire. That position may be affection. It may be necessity. It may be status. It may be the only warm place available. The body that once carried water now needs water brought. The household's comfort can be measured by how it treats that change. The 30th boring problem was getting through winter. Winter is a season now. In many places, it is also an inconvenience managed by heating, roads, supermarkets, electricity, snowplows, insulated clothing, weather forecasts, and indoor work. Before modern comfort, winter was an annual exam. Food storage, fuel supply, animal care, clothing, roof repair, road conditions, illness, short daylight, frozen water, damp bedding, cold hands, smoke-filled rooms. Winter asked whether the year's preparation had been enough. It exposed poor planning and bad luck. It made fuel political inside the household. Who gets warmth? How long does the fire burn? Which work must continue despite cold? Which journeys are worth the risk? Imagine counting fuel in late winter. The pile is smaller than comfort wants. Spring is not here. Every log, bundle, or piece of fuel becomes a decision. Modern heating makes warmth continuous. Before modern comfort, winter made warmth moral, economic, and physical all at once. The 31st boring problem was summer spoilage and smell. Summer is not only warmth and harvest. It is also rot. Food spoils faster. Waste smells stronger. Insects multiply. Water sources change. Bodies sweat. Cloth needs washing. Animals suffer. Sleeping becomes harder. Modern refrigeration, screens, deodorants, plumbing, trash collection, fans, and air conditioning have softened summer's old authority. Before modern comfort, summer could make everything more alive than people wanted. The cheese changes. The meat must be handled quickly. The flies discover the room. The privy announces itself. The street ripens. The bedding feels different. Imagine a hot market day. Fish cannot pretend. Meat cannot wait forever. Fruit bruises. People smell each other more honestly. The town becomes a theater of ripeness. Modern comfort has deodorized the season. Before modern comfort, summer made time visible through decay. The 32nd boring problem was sleeping safely. Sleep has already had its own script, but it belongs here too because every day ends with vulnerability. Before modern comfort, safe sleep depended on fire, bedding, locks, household presence, animals, weather, insects, social rules, and status. The night did not offer the same safety to everyone. A wealthy person behind doors, servants, walls, and a good bed had a different night from a poor traveler sharing a bed at an inn. A servant near the hall had a different night from a lord in a curtained chamber. A child had a different night from a watchman. The boring problem was surrender. How does a body become unconscious without everything going wrong? Modern comfort answers with locks, beds, alarms, phones, heating, plumbing, emergency systems, and social expectations of quiet. The medieval answer was more local. Sleep near others. Keep the fire safe. Store valuables carefully. Use curtains if you have them. Listen. Pray. Trust the household. Endure the rest. The 33rd boring problem was being clean enough for other people. This is different from being clean by modern medical standards. Every society has social cleanliness. What smells acceptable? What stains are shameful? What clothing can be worn in public? When should hands be washed? What hair is respectable? What linen shows decency? Before modern comfort, cleanliness was negotiated through water, linen, grooming, washing parts of the body, airing clothes, combing hair, dental care of various kinds, perfumes or scented herbs in some contexts, and social tolerance. People did not need modern bathrooms to care how they appeared. But the tools were different. Imagine preparing to be seen. The face is washed, hair arranged, linen checked, shoes cleaned as much as possible, mud addressed, smell managed if it can be. This is not vanity. It is social survival. Modern comfort gives people mirrors, showers, deodorant, washing machines, toothbrushes, toothpaste, razors, salons, and clean wardrobes. Before modern comfort, respectability had to be built from harder materials. The 34th boring problem was keeping the house from falling apart. A modern home requires maintenance, but many systems are standardized. Before modern comfort, the house was often more visibly alive. Thatch needed care. Timber moved. Daub cracked. Stone leaked. Floors wore. Doors warped. Smoke blackened. Rodents found weaknesses. Rain searched for every mistake. Wind tested the roof. The boring problem was that shelter is never finished. It only appears finished between repairs. Imagine noticing a small leak. It is not just a spot on the wall. It is future rot. Future damp bedding. Future mold. Future cold. Future expense. Someone must patch, call, trade, learn, or endure. Modern comfort has professionals, hardware stores, insurance, building codes, and standardized materials. Before modern comfort, maintenance leaned more heavily on local skill, available materials, and immediate necessity. The 35th boring problem was carrying things. Modern life has wheels everywhere. Cars, carts, elevators, delivery vans, forklifts, suitcases, shopping carts, strollers, backpacks designed by engineers. Before modern comfort, carrying was one of the background labors of life. Water, fuel, grain, laundry, tools, babies, messages, market goods, manure, firewood, hay, stone. The body was a transport system. So were animals, sledges, carts, boats, and pack frames were available. But many things still pass through hands and backs. Carrying shapes posture. It shapes time. It decides who can do a task. It makes distance personal. Imagine a servant carrying water upstairs. Every step adds meaning to the bucket. The person who uses the water may barely notice the journey. Modern comfort is full of such hidden carrying. Delivery workers, warehouse workers, movers, cleaners, nurses, kitchen staff, parents. The work did not vanish. It moved behind doors, schedules, wages, and services. Before modern comfort, carrying was closer to the household's bones. The 36th boring problem was knowing who owed what. Modern records surround us. Bills, receipts, contracts, bank statements, rent agreements, tax records, messages, calendars. Before modern comfort, memory, tally sticks, marks, written accounts, witnesses, local reputation, seals, notches, and oral agreements all helped manage obligation. The problem was simple. People owe things. Rent, labor, grain, money, service, days of work, tools returned, goods delivered, animals borrowed. Without records, arguments multiply. Who promised? When? How much? Was it paid? Who saw it? The medieval world was not illiterate chaos, but access to writing varied widely. Many obligations lived partly in memory and social pressure. That made trust personal. It also made power important. Imagine owing grain to a landlord or payment to a craftsman. The amount is not only number. It is relationship. Modern comfort turns obligation into statements and reminders. Before modern comfort, debt had more faces. The 37th boring problem was keeping peace with neighbors. Modern neighbors still cause trouble. Noise, parking, pets, trash, smoke, boundaries, shared walls. Before modern comfort, neighbor problems could be even more material. Waste overflow, animals trespass, smoke drifts, water access is disputed, fences fail, noise travels, shared paths are blocked, buildings lean, fire risk spreads. A neighbor's bad hygiene becomes your smell. A neighbor's carelessness becomes your danger. The boring problem was proximity. People need each other and irritate each other. Customs, courts, manor records, town rules, church discipline, reputation, and direct argument all help manage daily friction. Imagine a dispute over a ditch. To a modern listener, it sounds small. To the people involved, it may decide whether water ruins a yard, a field, or a wall. Small disputes are only small when their consequences are small. Before modern comfort, neighbors were infrastructure and hazard at the same time. The 38th boring problem was making the day feel orderly. The medieval day could be fragmented by tasks. Feed animals, fetch water, revive fire, bake, wash, mend, carry, trade, pray, listen for bells, watch weather, serve superiors, care for children, check stores, clean tools, prepare for night. The boring problem was not any single task. It was sequencing. Do the wrong task first and another task becomes harder. Forget fuel and cooking suffers. Delay water and washing waits. Miss daylight and repair becomes difficult. Ignore weather and laundry fails. Modern comfort gives us schedules, appliances, storage, lighting, and backup systems. Before modern comfort, order came from habit. The body remembered. The household remembered. The season remembered. Imagine a person moving through morning without writing a checklist. They know what comes next because yesterday taught them and tomorrow will punish them if they forget. This is a kind of intelligence modern life often undervalues. Routine is memory turned into survival. The 39th boring problem was rest. Rest sounds like the absence of work. But rest must be made possible. A body cannot rest if the fire is dangerous, the child is crying, the animal is loose, the bread is not baked, the water is gone, the roof leaks, the bedding is damp, or tomorrow's work is unprepared. Before modern comfort, rest often came after more visible completion. The household had to be arranged enough to permit stopping. This is still true, but modern systems absorb more unfinished work. Dirty dishes can wait in a sink. Laundry can wait in a basket. Food can wait in a refrigerator. Messages can wait, at least in theory. A heater can run without you. A lock can guard without your hand on it. Before modern comfort, fewer things waited safely. Imagine sitting by a low fire at the end of a day. The body wants stillness. But stillness is allowed only because tasks have been handled well enough. Rest is not free. It is earned by arrangement. The 40th boring problem was making tomorrow possible. This is the quiet center of everything. Most medieval daily work was not dramatic because its purpose was continuation. Keep food edible. Keep water available. Keep tools usable. Keep animals alive. Keep clothing mended. Keep fire possible. Keep the house standing. Keep debts remembered. Keep neighbors tolerable. Keep the body clean enough. Keep children warm. Keep stores protected. Keep pathways passable. Keep the night survivable. Modern comfort has not removed these tasks. It has moved them into systems. Water departments. Power grids. Waste collection. Food regulation. Factories. Transport networks. Hospitals. Schools. Insurance. Appliances. Apps. Customer service. Building codes. The modern person still depends on daily maintenance, but much of it happens far away. Before modern comfort, more of it happened within reach of the hand. The 41st boring problem was salt. Salt looks small on a modern table. It waits in a shaker. It hides inside packaged food. It is cheap enough in many places that people are told to use less of it. Before modern comfort, salt could be much more serious. It seasoned food, but seasoning was only the pleasant surface of the matter. Salt helped preserve meat, fish, cheese, butter, vegetables, and other foods depending on local practice. It mattered to animals. It mattered to trade. It mattered to taxation and control in many societies. It mattered because rot was always waiting. A household with enough salt had one more tool against time. A household without it had fewer choices. This is one of those old comforts that modern abundance has made almost invisible. We think of preservation as refrigeration. The old household thought in terms of drying, smoking, salting, fermenting, and storing. Salt was not magic. It did not make bad food good. It had to be used with skill. Too little, and food failed. Too much, and food became harsh. Too late, and decay had already begun. Imagine rubbing salt into meat or fish. The work is physical. The hands feel the surface. The smell is strong. The person doing it is not creating a rustic delicacy for a restaurant menu. They are trying to make future meals survive the present day. Modern comfort has turned many preservation flavors into preference. Smoked, salted, pickled, cured, fermented. We buy them because they taste interesting. Earlier households often made them because the calendar was dangerous. Before modern comfort, salt was not only flavor. It was time, made granular. The 42nd boring problem was keeping small valuables safe. Modern people trust drawers, locks, bank accounts, passwords, safes, insurance, cameras, receipts, and digital records. Even then we worry. Before modern comfort, a household's valuable things were often more physical and more exposed. Coins, tools, knives, clothing, textiles, documents, keys, jewelry, stored food, household vessels, a belt purse, a chest, a locked box, a door latch. The problem was not only thieves in the dramatic sense. It was ordinary access. Who can touch what? Who sleeps near the goods? Who carries the key? Where is the purse while traveling? Can a servant reach the chest? Can a stranger in an inn reach the bundle? Can a child lose something that cannot easily be replaced? Locks existed, of course, but a lock was not the whole solution. Security was a system of objects and habits. A chest placed where it could be watched. A purse worn close to the body. A door barred at night. A key kept by the person with authority. A valuable textile stored away from damp, insects, and careless hands. Imagine going to sleep with a small purse nearby. The coins inside are not abstract money. They are meals, rent, tools, travel, debt, and safety compressed into metal. The body turns in the night, and some part of the mind remembers where the purse is. Modern comfort has moved much wealth into accounts, passwords, and institutions. Before modern comfort, wealth often had weight, smell, texture, and hiding places. The boring problem was making sure tomorrow still contained what today had earned. That is why the old world can feel tiring when we look closely. Not because people were weak. Because the margin between ordinary and difficult was smaller. A broken shoe mattered. A wet floor mattered. A bad well mattered. A smoky room mattered. A short loaf mattered. A stolen chicken mattered. A dull blade mattered. A cold bed mattered. Modern life still has suffering and injustice, but it also has many layers of ordinary mercy. The tap. The switch. The drain. The bin. The paved road. The label. The receipt. The clinic. The washing machine. The refrigerator. The forecast. The quiet bedroom. The lock. The alarm. The boring modern object is often an old anxiety made small. So the next time you throw something away, remember that waste used to stay closer. The next time you complain about laundry, remember wet cloth heavy enough to teach the back. The next time your bread is ordinary, remember that ordinary bread once required weather, law, mills, fuel, and trust. The next time you turn on a lamp, remember eyes trying to mend by a trembling flame. The next time water fills a glass, remember the path to the well. The next time your floor is merely dusty, remember mud entering with every foot. The next time a refrigerator hums in the background, remember the old race against rot. The next time you close a door, remember that privacy itself is a kind of technology. Before modern comfort, life was full of boring problems. But boring did not mean small. Boring meant repeated. Boring meant necessary. Boring meant the problem returned even after you solved it yesterday. That is the old rhythm. The house gets dirty again. The fire dies again. The water runs out again. The blade dulls again. The roof leaks again. The body hungers again. The child wakes again. The night comes again. And every day, people answered. Not perfectly. Not comfortably by our standards. Not always successfully. But with tools, rules, habits, neighbors, labor, memory, and hands. That is the quiet dignity of the old everyday world. It solved what had to be solved, then woke up and solved it again. Modern comfort is not the absence of these problems. It is the distance between you and the work of solving them. And that distance is one of the softest luxuries we have.